How long did it take you to start dating after a long-term breakup? Now, here's what's interesting. Most men date fast. And there's something about dating fast that no one tells us. And that is, we often date within weeks. Sometimes we date from a position of loneliness, fear, maybe even chaos. Which, to use Kerri Sackville's words, is not a good way to start. And we often have no idea that's what we're doing. Men say that they're ready. They think that swiping on Tinder or eHarmony or whatever platform you use at 11 p.m. at nighttime after an emotional day is a reasonable place to begin. And the women they date can feel that immediately. And here's the thing. The reason that most men jump straight into dating is not because of recklessness. It's because the emotional world that was almost entirely housed inside the previous marriage or long-term relationship has ended. Silence is unbearable, and men reach for the nearest thing that feels like a connection. Now, today I want to give you 3 actions that address what's actually going on, not in the dating, but in the deeper question of whether you know how to be with yourself and connect with yourself. As Kerri Sackville told me, and she spent 8.5 years researching this from the other side of the table, you cannot have a real relationship with anyone until you have one with yourself. Kerri Sackville is an author and columnist who spent 8.5 years navigating the midlife dating scene before writing 2 books about what she found. Her first book, Out There, was written for women, but men read it in droves and kept messaging her to say thank you.
And I think what came out of that is really deeply understanding that the most important relationship that I would have was with myself, and that I wasn't going to have any really healthy relationships unless I learnt how to be comfortable with myself.
Okay, action number 1. Here's what to do. Before your next date or your next attempt at any close relationship, ask yourself one honest question. Am I coming from a place of strength or a place of fear? Kerri describes 2 ways of seeking connection. The first is from a position of robustness, where you have your own bearings. You know roughly who you are, and you're genuinely interested in the other person. The second is from a position of loneliness or even anxiety, where you're using the other person as a crutch, treating them as an object to soothe yourself, and not actually seeing them at all. The test is really simple. Before the date, ask yourself, am I going because I'm curious about this person? Or am I going because I cannot stand another night alone? Or indeed, I'm going because of revenge on the third party? All answers are human, but only one is useful, and only one leads to somewhere good. If the answer is the second or the third, that's useful information for you, of course. But it means the work to do right now is not necessarily on the dating app. It's in the next 2 actions. Now, we know this works. There's a psychological theory called attachment theory. A lot of research around this. And it identifies anxious attachment as one of the primary predictors of unsatisfying and unstable relationships, in adults particularly. A 2022 analysis in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships that reviewed data from over 14,000 adults found the individuals who reported dating from unmet emotional needs. Now, what that means is need-driven dating. I need emotional connection through somebody else. Reported significantly lower relationship satisfactions and early rates of relationship breakdown, independent of the quality of partners that they chose. The problem is not who you're dating. The problem is the emotional position from which you are dating. Now, Kerri identified this from the other side of the table after hundreds of dates as part of the research for her book. The research confirms it from the inside. The good news is that awareness is the pattern in the first step of changing your behaviors. Which leads me to action number 2, and it's really simple. Ask more questions than you answer. On every first date, in every new conversation, make it a measure of your own success. Does this person know something real about me? And do I know something real about them? Because the only way you can do that is by asking a question about them. Kerri described leaving many first dates where the man had talked for an hour and a half and hadn't even asked her simple questions like how many children she had, what she wrote as an author, where she worked. He knew everything about his own situation and wanted to make sure that she heard it. She knew nothing about him except his problems that he wanted to share with her. Imagine how boring those dates were for Kerri and for every other woman in the same situation. Now, the specific practice is this. For everything you share about yourself, ask one genuine question in return. Not an interview, don't turn up with a checklist, but a real question driven by actual curiosity about the person in front of you. Ask questions about what do they love about their work? What are they most proud of? What has surprised them recently? Kerri shared a two-part formula in our conversation for what she was ultimately looking for in a partner. I'm sure she's not unique in this. She said someone whose company she genuinely enjoyed and someone who made her feel emotionally safe. Now, both of these things begin with the same thing, being seen, being witnessed. And you cannot see someone if you're not asking questions of them. Now, we know this works. A very famous study done by a guy called Arthur Aaron at Stony Brook University, originally done in 1997, but it's been replicated many times since then. That study showed that mutual self-disclosure, progressively personal questions exchanged between two strangers, reliably generates feelings of closeness and connection, even in a single conversation. A recently done large-scale replication in the Journal of Experiential Psychology, which was done in 2021, confirmed this effect across 37 countries. So it's not unique to one particular city or person. The mechanism is not a mystery. When somebody asks you a real question and listens to the answer, the brain registers this as social safety. Oxytocin is released. The defensive self-monitoring that dominates most early and first encounters just reduces. Both people become more open. Kerri's observation that she felt genuinely connected after a date where the man asked real questions about her and listened to her answers is exactly what the neuroscience is predicting. So ask more questions, be more curious, have a better date. And my third action, which is interesting given what I just said a second ago, is start practicing being alone. Now, I don't mean meditating on a mountain for 6 weeks. I mean in the car. Next time you're in your car, don't put on the radio. Don't put on a podcast. Just drive. Let your mind go wherever it goes. Kerri's argument that she spent years working this out the hard way through COVID lockdowns and compulsive scrolling and a slow realization that she had been running from herself for most of her adult life is that solitude is actually a skill. It's not the same as loneliness. Loneliness is a gap between the connection that you want with somebody else and the connection that you actually have right now. Solitude is something totally different. It's being comfortable enough in your own company that you can keep your own company. And the less you practice it, the harder it gets. But the more you practice it, the more you enjoy being by yourself, and then the more curious you are of other people when you are with them. Kerri suggested a simple progression. Start without a podcast once a week. Not this one, any other one. Do some housework without a phone. And then move to something maybe a bit more uncomfortable. In the car or on your walk, just have time by yourself and ask yourself some questions. How am I feeling? What do I want this week? What am I proud of? Listen to your own answers. Be curious about yourself. Now, we know this really works. I've mentioned Matthew Lieberman before on this podcast, a neuroscientist from UCLA. And he studied what is called the default mode network. This is the set of brain regions that are active when we are not focused on other tasks. And he studied that over 2 decades. His research was published in a book called Social, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect. And it showed that this network is most active during unstructured alone time. Walking, driving, doing repetitive tasks without distraction. This is when our brain consolidates our memory It's when our brain generates creative insights, processes emotions, builds our self-concept in terms of who we are. The constant external stimulation through noise and radio and the phone, and particularly our phones and social media, suppresses this network. Now, men who report the highest rates of anxiety and emotional numbness and have difficulty understanding their own emotional states are the same men who give themselves the least unstructured alone time. So start in the car. This is actually not about wellness. This is about neurological maintenance. Now, Kerri's final words to me were simple. Aim for the good moments. Life's complicated. It's definitely getting more complicated. We have limited power to change most of it. But if we can be comfortable enough in ourselves to actually be present in a conversation, on a date, in the car, at our daughter's graduation, whatever it is, we will have more good moments than the people who are perpetually either performing or escaping. This is the whole thing. Everything else follows that. Now, if you like these actions, the full conversation with Kerri Sackville is in the description below. I found it to be really, really helpful and insightful. I'm sure you will too. Please subscribe on any platform you're watching and listening to, because we release a new episode every week. And all of it is aimed at making the second half of your life better than the first. So that's got to be good. In the meantime, don't let the old man in.